How are you?
What's going on? What's happening?
Thank you so much for joining me today. Where are you now? Are you back? Are you already back down south?
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale. Just sitting here at the Panthers complex, the Iceplex in Fort Lauderdale.
Nice. So, what was the big initial reaction today to the Sasha Barkov hit? And do you think that he'll be available for Game 3?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, anytime you get caught on the chin, I mean, you could see Barkov's head snap back. He did not expect that hit to be coming. Got caught totally off guard. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm no doctor, but I would assume that he's in concussion protocol. So it just depends on whether or not he gets cleared. Paul Maurice said today that he hasn't been ruled out, but he also hasn't been cleared. So, maybe if this game was Sunday, that I would, if I was a betting man, I would say he doesn't play tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're up 2-0 in the series. Less than 48 hours later with that 1 o'clock start does not bode well. Well, my initial reaction, I was just joking with Eric Erlinson that I pissed a lot of Tampa people off last night, and I got a bunch of new followers from South Florida last night because right off the rip, as soon as I saw that hit in my mind, I said, that's 5. Yeah. And Bobby the Chief next to me was like, I don't know. And I go, there's a lot that went wrong for Brandon Hagel right there. And they say he's 6'1", but I don't know if he's 6'1", and Barkov is a thick dude, every bit of 6'3". And for a little guy like that to be able to hit him that hard and have him stay down like that, there's a lot of things that had to go in that form or fashion to make that happen. Not surprised for me that it was upgraded to a major, and wouldn't be surprised if he gets suspended. We're probably going to find out probably 5-6 o'clock today or after the Lightning get off the plane, whether he's suspended or not. But what was your initial reaction to the hit, and what were the Panthers saying after the game last night regarding the hit?
Well, in the moment, it looked like, maybe the puck came off, Sasha Barkov's stick, and it even if it had, it would have been interference. Right. But Sasha never touched the puck. And whether or not Hagel knew that, he did know that Barkov was coming around, and he sized him up and unloaded on him. And yeah, Sasha Barkov is a big man, and if he gets hit in the chest, there's no problem. But he didn't. He got caught in the chin, and I don't care how big you are, if you get popped like that, that's a head thing. That's not a toughness thing or anything like that. So the Panthers are not saying much. I'll tell you that. Paul Maurice refused to comment on it again today. He says that he's staying out of it, and kind of like what Cooper was talking about last night. Coop's got to defend his guy. Coop's got to say, it shouldn't have been a fight, whatever it was. But Coop, when he watches it again, knows exactly what happened, knows exactly what went down, but he's never going to say that publicly. So I would not be surprised to see Hagel not play tomorrow either.
George, what is it like to be able to cover a guy like Paul Maurice? I love just here. It's so great. I think these are the two of them. They both do it in their own way, but just listening to Cooper and Maurice speak after the games, I feel like it's a treat to be able to hear two different guys to be able to do it. But man, it just, you come away so enlightened.
Yeah, you get a lot of good stuff out of John Cooper and Paul Maurice as well. Paul Maurice is a guy, there are some coaches he's a notebook filler, right? That guy's always going to give you something that you're going to be able to use. Paul Maurice is a little different. Not that you get such good stuff that you think, oh man, that's a story for, you figure out other stories to write based off what Paul Maurice says. He's just very good to deal with. And again, he, anything you need, you can get, and very, very easy to work with from a media standpoint. Now it's the playoffs, so you're getting limited. He's hedging his bets a little bit with the answers and everything, just like every coach in the league does. But that comes with the territory.
I asked Coach Maurice after the game yesterday, because after the Game 1 victory, he was like, not really understanding the identity of this game, because Game 1 was such a weird contest.
It was weird.
And then Game 2, I asked him, and he goes, we kind of have like a half of an identity. What have you seen from your point of view? What has worked so well for Florida coming away with 2 road victories there in Tampa?
Florida's playing exactly the way they always play, and I think that, like both Coop and Maurice have said, These teams are no strangers to each other. They've run the same systems now for a couple, Tampa Bay, obviously, for a lot longer than Florida. This is year 3 under Paul Maurice, but Tampa Bay knows exactly how Florida's going to play. And we talked about that a little bit last night, that even, at the end of the regular season, Florida had lost 5 straight games. And a lot of people were up in arms based on the results. But not the way Florida was playing. They were playing exactly the way they wanted to play. Every game was 2-1, 3-2, something like that. Florida wasn't able to score, but they were playing a strong defensive game regardless of who was in the lineup. They had one game, I think it was in Detroit, where you had like 4 or 5 guys up from Charlotte playing in that game, and it was just plug and play. They were playing the exact same style that we're singing right now against Tampa Bay. Now, it's a little bit more intricate, especially when it comes to how they're treating Nikita Kucherov. They're certainly keying on him. But this is how Florida plays, and you can't play this way all the time because you're just not going to have a team left. But in the playoffs, Florida knows exactly what it wants to do. It got 16 shots on goal in game 1. And 6 went in, but the Panthers don't. They're sacrificing offense for defense at this time of year. And Tampa Bay cannot be surprised by it because this is exactly what they were expecting.
Yeah, everybody, I've kind of been getting on the people here locally where it's like, it's the physicality, it's the hits. And I'm like, oh, that's great. The Lightning had more hits than the Panthers last night. They didn't score a goal. It's more than just that. I look at the blocked shots, and the Panthers blocked 20 shots last night. The Lightning blocked 6.
Yeah.
The Florida does such a great job of getting in the passing lanes, getting in the shooting lanes. Like, a lot of those shots don't even get to Bobrovsky, and when they do, he does a really good job of seeing the puck. And I thought that was the thing that Vazzy had trouble with in the first 20 minutes. Thought he was phenomenal through the last 40. But you mentioned Nikita Kucherov. From what you've seen, this is 12 straight playoff games without a goal for Nikita, which, it's wild. He hasn't scored.
Yeah.
He hasn't scored since game 1 against the Maple Leafs a couple of years ago. From what you've seen, what has worked so well for Florida as they contain number 86?
Well, I was just watching, every shift I've seen, Florida, and I asked Evan Rodriguez this today, and he was basically like, we don't want him to get comfortable when Florida wants to keep him to the outside, when they're setting up in the offensive zone to keep him out. Now, if you give up an odd man rush here or there, you don't know what's going to happen. That's all Sergei Bobrovsky, but Florida feels like it can contain him a little bit, or at least have been doing that by making him uncomfortable, by putting a body on him, by putting 2 guys on him. Whenever the puck comes to Kucherov, everybody collapses that way. And he has not had any space nor time to make anything happen. Now, that's going to probably change. I mean, I know you said 12 games, so it's gonna happen, right? He's going to get a power play goal and get rolling again. But Florida, the way Florida plays them is not going to change. Right. He's going to have to adjust to that, and it's not the regular season anymore. Things change in the playoffs, and Florida's been doing a real good job the past 2 postseasons of limiting his action.
George, the biggest question going into the series was the status of Matthew Tkachuk. He was fantastic in game 1. Outside of the goals, what have you seen from him through 2 games as far as the impact he's had for the Cats?
Still playing a physical game, right? He's terrific on the power play. He's terrific around the net. I think we saw a couple switches when Florida was in the defensive zone for faceoffs. Tkachuk's line might be out there, but he's not. They switch him out. For that, they're watching his minutes because the dude's hurt. I mean, there was a lot of doubt, from his camp that he would be able to return for the playoffs, even though they were like, he's not, but he shouldn't be. So the Panthers are trying to keep an eye on things, not put too many miles on him right now. And so far it's been working, but it's a long haul right now. Who knows what, game to game that changes. And he's a hard guy to pull off the ice. I mean, we saw it at the 4 Nations when he was injured. Yeah. John Tortorella, almost had to put him in a headlock to keep him on the bench. So, good luck.
He's the guy Torts would have loved to coach. They're no trying to kicking that guy in the seat. What about Seth Jones and Marchand? I mean, these 2 guys picked up in you always wonder, what are these trade deadline acquisitions going to do? I was wondering about Seth Jones. Everybody was saying, well, part of a Chicago team, can't really blame him. I'm like, well, he was on the team, so I mean, he's got to wear some of it. And I wondered what he was going to be able to do, knowing that offense and speed has been his game. Would he be defensively sound enough to be able to fit into the system? Marsh, I was thinking, all right, maybe lost a little bit because his foot speed wasn't the same. Obviously we saw with Boston and the Four Nations. But man, those two guys I think have been fantastic through the first two games of the series. What have you seen from them too? How have they kind of assimilated themselves with the club?
Well, Seth Jones was brought in here to be Florida's second right-handed defenseman. But then Aaron Ekblad got suspended 2 or 3 games into that. So Seth Jones all of a sudden had to carry a lot of the load. He was playing 25, 26, 27 minutes, and that's something Florida didn't want to do. In fact, when they traded for him, they looked at his minutes in Chicago and said, well, we're going to reduce that and make him more effective that way. And then, boom, he was forced into it.
27-30 last night. He had 4.5 minutes more than anybody else.
That may change. That may change.
Yeah.
Ekblad coming back for Game 3, but you know what? There's a silver lining in everything. Florida was with Ekblad out. They were forced into changing up and seeing what guys could do. So if you do have an injury during the playoffs, you kind of have an idea of who could play with who, which combinations you like to see. And Seth Jones has been terrific. I mean, from that first game that he played after the trade from Chicago, you could just see that first shot, that entry pass that he's got. He is an absolute terrific player. Is he the most defensive defenseman? No. I mean, but his game is strong, and he's really playing into this new role with the Panthers. And talking to Paul Maurice, he says it takes a defenseman about a year to figure out this system because Seth Jones did not play this style, this defensive system either in Columbus or in Chicago. So he's learning on the fly and doing a really, really good job of it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So who comes out if Ekblad goes in for Game 3? Because you can't take the next the reincarnation of Bobby Orr out with Nate Schmidt.
Nate Schmidt probably, even without the goals, probably would have stayed in. I mean,
right.
Nate Schmidt ended up playing 80 of 82 games with the Panthers. The last time he was a healthy scratch was back in early November. So he's played a lot of minutes. He's been the guy that Florida has really counted on, with Florida losing Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Brandon Montour last year. I tell you what, Nate Schmidt's been a great story for just the way that he's been able to come in after being bought out in Winnipeg. He was scratched 20 times last year by the Jets. For him to be able to come in here and really pick up this system and play well in it, I don't think he would have been out anyway, but certainly not now. Uvis Balinskis would be the guy that comes out, and he's played very well. So Florida's very happy with the way their defensemen have been playing, and you've got Jacob Megnick, a guy that's got 250 NHL games. He came up from Charlotte earlier this month and has played terrific for Florida, and he's a healthy scratch for the playoffs. But so if Florida has any injuries or anything, they're fairly deep at the blue line right now. At least maybe it doesn't look that way on paper to some people going, who is that? But the Panthers have been very happy with what they've been getting, especially since the trade deadline.
George, we mentioned Barkov. If he doesn't go tomorrow, how do they fill in that gap? Who draws in? How do they kind of utilize that same strong play down the middle, knowing you have one of the best two-way forwards in the game out?
Yeah. I would think that Sam Reinhart goes right back to play with Anton Lundell and Eetu Lesterainen. That becomes Florida's new top line. You keep the Tkachuk, Bennett, Samoskevich line together. And then you start to mix and match. Do you put Evan Rodriguez centering the third line? Do you move Nico Sturm up? There's a couple things you can do. But, Paul Maurice likes keeping a couple guys together all the time. So I think we can figure out what the top 6 will be. I think the difference will be who comes in the bottom, in the fourth line, and who centers that third line, because Evan Rodriguez has been playing wing much of the year, but he can play center. Or do you bring Thomas Nosek in? Thomas Nosek had been Florida's fourth line center all season long, up until the trade deadline when they got Sturm from the San Jose Sharks. So maybe Thomas Nosek comes in, but we'll wait and see for that tomorrow.
George, before I let you go, anything in this series surprised you so far? And what is the one thing that you're going to be keeping an eye on outside of the Barkov injury and the Hagel suspension? What other aspect of the game are you going to be keeping an eye on mañana?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be, a complete desperation from the Lightning. Obviously, they're down 2-0. They're coming to Sunrise. They want to play another home game, right? They want to get, they think that they can take 2 here in Sunrise, and they can. I just think that Florida's depth, losing Barkov is tough, because you see how important he is. If Florida's without Barkov tomorrow, that could be a difference maker in game 3. But we're going to see a desperate Tampa Bay Lightning team. They would like nothing more than to come to South Florida and get a couple here and go back tied, or at least maybe at worst 3-1 for game 5. So we'll see what happens. I think we're going to see. The thing that surprised me was how Tampa Bay came out in game 1. I thought they were much better yesterday. I thought they were on their game. Sergei Bobrovsky and Florida's defense was just a little too tough for them. So we'll see what happens. Coop will come up with something.
Not Florida hockey yesterday or tomorrow. It's Florida hockey right now. FloridaHockeyNow.com, the connoisseur of all things Florida Panthers, the one and only George Richards. George, so appreciate your time, my friend. I'm driving down early tomorrow. I'll see you at the game tomorrow. And of course, I will definitely have some of that coffee out of that famous machine. And I hope they put the sign back up, my friend.
Yeah, we don't know. The sign's gone, baby.
George, you're the best. Thanks, pal.
All right, Jay. Thanks, bud.
You got it, man.